competing in that category in the kitchens at the same time. So you're just kind of
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Buncombe County Board of Adjustment. My name is Jim Lesko. I'll be chairing this meeting, and I would ask the members to introduce themselves.
John Yurko, Weaverville.
Lisa Stevens, South Asheville.
Jim Guido, Beaver Dam.
Peggy Mann, Limestone.
George Lakin, South Asheville.
David Summy, South Asheville.
Robbie Taylor, South Asheville.
Jillian, we have 8 up here. Who's the alternate today?
You guys can pick who wants to be the nominee.
Who would like to be the alternate?
Since I do have to leave at some point, I'll be the alternate.
Okay, very good. Just a couple notes out there so we have an understanding of how things go in here. This is a quasi-judicial body, and we deal in fact-based evidence here. So try to remember that as you're speaking. All your remarks should be addressed up toward the board, not inner audience communication. We accept information from licensed and sealed professionals, and we can only address issues that are in our purview. If traffic problems are one that comes up frequently here, we're interested to hear about that, but there's not anything we can do about it because that's outside of our scope. And we don't deal with things like property line disputes, restrictive covenants, deed restrictions, and other civil matters. So just that's kind of a little bit of a ground rules we run by. You all received a copy of the minutes of the June 13th meeting. Are there any corrections?
I did make one change. I had George as calling the meeting to order when obviously it was Jim calling the meeting to order. So that has been corrected.
I had noted that, yeah. Okay, the minutes shall stand as submitted. If you're going to speak today, could you please come forward and put your hand on the Bible, or if there's more than that, and I'll swear you in. Come right up to this table right there. There's a Bible right there.
And this is for anybody that'll be presenting any kind of testimony.
If you're going to speak, you have to be sworn in.
For or against?
Yeah, anyone who speaks, either for or against. Please put your hand on the Bible.
Or touch someone else.
Or touch someone who is.
And anybody that thinks they might speak. I think we have a couple of people that need to be up there as well.
Yeah.
Anybody who's presenting their case needs to be up.
Yeah, you can put your hand on somebody else's shoulder. That's fine. You don't all have to reach over there.
We're not playing Twister.
It's a good thing we have a tall man on the end here. Okay. You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Okay. All right, Josh. What have we?
All right, Mr. Chair, the first case that you have before you is ZPH 2012-0011. Elizabeth M. McCann has applied for a variance from Section 78-642, the dimensional requirement, specifically minimum lot area of the zoning ordinance of Buncombe County, to subdivide land on tax lots 9608754493, which is 4 High Mountain Lane, and 9608756448, which is east of 4 High Mountain Lane. If you'll refer to the aerial photos and the plat that you have in front of you, there are 3 existing houses on 1 lot currently. The variance would match what's in that plat or that survey and allow the applicant to have each of those houses on its own lots. You have the septic information in front of you as well. And I will note, and Jillian can field any further questions about this, that this had originally been approved for subdivision approval prior to zoning, but that approval has lapsed without this plat being filed. Sir.
When was it approved? I mean, what year? I mean, recently?
2006.
Okay.
Who will be presenting this case? please come up and give the microphone. Please tell us what you want to do here and why we should approve it.
I would like to separate the.
If everyone who speaks could state their name for the record.
I'm Elizabeth McCann, and I want to separate the properties in order to sell them to a couple of the renters that have shown interest in the properties already. And in order to do that, I would have to get your approval to have the properties separated.
Josh, has there been any comment from the public?
We fielded a couple of questions from the public, but I don't think we've heard any significant opposition other than what you might hear today.
We have one person.
Okay, we'll call for that in a minute. Is that all you are going to present?
With this being our first time presenting this, we weren't sure if you were going to ask us questions.
State your name for the record.
I'm Christy Malier, licensed real estate broker for Liz McCann. And in answering the questions on the application and by having the aerials, we had hoped that it might be kind of self-explanatory here. When she purchased the property, she purchased it the way that you see it, and then her husband in 2006 had the survey done to have it subdivided, and that has lapsed. And so from that point, she's had a tenant in here now who would like to purchase this property, and she had given me a call to ask about could she sell this property. I said not individually until we can get an approval or a variance to show that this can be an individual lot. And that's when we saw the old survey, that it had actually been surveyed at one time so that these were 3 individual properties. It was after that, in 2009, when the new zoning ordinance designation was given out here that these could not be subdivided. So that's why we came to follow the process and seek a variance so that she could sell.
Okay, so this was allowed under the old ordinance.
Yes.
That's our understanding, yes, sir.
When the property was submitted for a minor subdivision approval, there was no zoning.
Right.
But it was not recorded at that time?
It was not.
How do we know that it really happened?
The subdivision submittal?
Yeah, if it was never recorded.
They have to submit a preliminary plan and get that approved. It would have been a minor subdivision, so it would have been an internal approval through the planning department. Just like for a major subdivision, they'd have to go before the planning board for approval.
Okay.
And that's actually the plat that you have before you is that subdivision submittal.
Yes,
So
sir.
it went normally through the process, then it just didn't flow all the way to completion.
Mm-hmm. They didn't complete the infrastructure. There's a road shown on the plan. So in order to final plat the subdivision, actually subdivide the lots, all the infrastructure would need to be complete.
So if we approve it, you'll have to build the road.
No, sir, there was, and we did have a letter of approval back in 2006, which I have with me.
Right.
I've discussed some other options with them. If they can serve the 3 houses off the existing private drive with approval from the fire marshal, and then that lot in the rear, they can serve that from the other private drive shown on the plat.
As Parman Place.
Sounds good.
So there's nothing substantial of scraping, building.
What is the biggest drawback to this not being approved under the new zoning?
You mean
lot size, or, I mean.
It is the lot size that creates an issue. And I will point out that there's already an existing nonconformity there in that we would not allow 3 single-family dwellings on a single lot currently. So it would essentially be transferring one nonconformity into another type of nonconformity.
This won't allow any new building.
Yeah, they could build on lot
Lot
4.
4.
But Lot 4 already exists.
Right.
And
It does,
can be-
that was the split
That's a
originally.
whole new process of coming back to,
Correct.
okay.
And the access to Lot 4 would be from Parman Place, which is already in existence. So there is not going to be a creation of a new lot or anything other than what you see on the plat there. There would just be the 3 existing homes being accessed by High Mountain Lane. No creation of a new road or new buildings or new lot.
Is the septic system, that is the certified level of septic, match the actual houses?
Yes, sir, and I do have the septic permits with me. Each of those homes has its own individual septic permit, and they do have a shared well that you can see there on the plat as well.
And those septic permits are in your packet.
Yeah.
They have a shared well, just the 3 of them, or there's a shared well outside of those 3 houses?
It's those 3 homes on one shared well. Is that correct? That is correct. You can actually see that on the aerial, I believe.
I'll get you.
It looks to me like your mistake was not recording it in '06.
We can speak to that too if you would like. That's, her husband was handling all of those affairs, and he's been in a nursing home with Alzheimer's for the past couple of years, and hence the need to sell some of the properties individually.
All right, any further questions or comments for these folks? Okay, we'll excuse you. Is there anyone else? Oh, I'm sorry, John.
I can ask a question after we close.
Okay. If you'd like to retire back to the seats, is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor or against this project? Please come forward.
Anything you'd like to say?
Give us your name, please.
Charles Singleton. I have
What was your name again?
Charles Singleton. And really, I just have a couple questions, more or less, on the properties. I know that everything's out of date on it. My concerns are the well and septic, because it is adjacent to mine. Do they have enough room for repair or anything else if these variances are applied to let them have that? Is there room for a septic repair, a shared well? Just some of those concerns with me, because my property is adjacent, and I have well and septic and everything also in the area. I don't have an issue with her dividing those and selling them. My issue is they're gonna run into problems with water and septic
Okay. Josh?
and access, but you said you didn't deal with that, so, because we have a paved drive that's the shared access to that.
Can I ask you, do you have an opinion on that?
Excuse me. I do have the septic permits in hand, and you have a copy there, and they do show the repair areas on both of the permits.
There should be 3 permits, right?
This one is, this is for one of the individual homes, and then this one was done for 2 homes, each with their own septic and repair area.
But where are the 3 that are there right now? That's what I'm asking about.
Please speak up so we can all hear.
The 3 that are there now is what I'm asking to see. Is there repair area and everything for that?
Mm-hmm.
And this is lot 4,
Makes sense.
correct?
Yes,
Okay. So the shared well is actually on lot 4.
correct.
So that's not gonna work, is it? I mean, you have a shared well that's not gonna be on these pieces of property, it's on someone else's property.
There's an easement from this well to, and she owns this property as
I
well.
understand that, but I just, the well's not on the property, and I'm curious, these septics, that area there, it doesn't look to me like there's enough room for repair.
Well, that's,
But
yes, Kurt?
I just wanted to step in. This is really to give testimony and not so much to
Right.
talk about. I mean, you can express your concerns and work that, but
Right.
we need to.
And I don't know how to answer that.
Well, that was my concern.
What I'm a little confused about, the idea of a shared well is that it's not on everybody's property.
Right.
It's shared.
Yeah,
So what are you saying when you say the well's not on the property?
well, the well's not on these, it's on a separate piece of property, but if there's easements and everything, then that's fine.
Maybe I can
Right.
clear this up. Under our present rules, does this shared well meet?
Well, I don't think that the whether the septics and whether or not there's shared water, that's not really an issue for the Board of Adjustment in terms of whether or not to grant the variance. What we need to be focusing on is whether there's a hardship here, whether they've met the requirements
Okay.
for granting. Because really the question is can you subdivide this one lot into three non-conform, to make, because essentially we're going to be making three non-conforming lots.
And that's the answer I was looking for. The water and the sewer, that's not our consideration.
That's not really under our
Yeah.
purview, yes.
Okay.
Just to clarify for you, it's common for people to share wells. That's approved through environmental health. And these 3 septic permits in this well were approved through environmental health, so.
Okay. I just didn't see how they could meet code being so close and still have repair area. So, that's fine.
These go back a time. Nowadays, this would be a real challenge.
Well, I guarantee you. I used to drill wells, I know.
Okay. Any further comment? Please come forward.
But, and you don't deal with right-of-way issues, correct? Because it's gonna add traffic and
No,
everything.
that once again would be something between, that would be whatever agreement is in the
Basically why I
deeds.
came today was to get some questions answered that I didn't understand, and I appreciate you answering those.
We try to answer what we are given authority to answer.
Well, it's,
Please sit down. Give us your name, please.
I'm Cynthia Bassett.
She needs to be sworn in.
She just came in, swear in.
Oh, yeah,
Oh.
I just walked in the door.
Okay. You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay. Thank you. All right, Cynthia, go ahead.
Well, I got this, I didn't really know what this meeting was about. I could tell that they were going to divide that property, and it's right across the street from my house. I'm at 248 Holcomb Cove Road. And the only problem I had with, I thought that they may be more apartments or more, I didn't know, but that's a little one lane road, and I was just mostly worried about the traffic going up to that area. Okay.
Well, that's kind of out of our purview, but before you came in, I think that was kind of discussed
already
here.
been- I'm
That's
sorry for being late.
agreeable, but to all of the persons
Okay.
concerned here.
Okay, that was it.
Okay?
would, the traffic that's there now, is there people living in these homes?
And there's apartments, yes. Uh-huh. Yeah, there's-
Apartments, these are apartments?
They're right across the street from my house. There's 3 apartments, and then I think the land that's being talked about right now is the land that's right across from those 3 apartments.
They're single-family homes, though.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is subdivide those 3 apartments so she can sell them each as homes.
Oh, okay.
Not adding anything.
No physical change, just some lines on maps are going to change.
Okay.
But I was just concerned, would that increase, if we
so-
approve this, how would it increase the traffic?
On the
guess I'm asking
on the
you.
little road there that goes up to that property.
I mean, they're going up there now, though, aren't they?
Yes, they are. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay?
I think the answer for question what she missed because she came in late.
You need to speak into the microphone.
Excuse me?
I mean, it's an empty lot right now, to my knowledge. I mean, it's an empty lot.
What you missed by coming in a little bit late is that there will be no further subdivision than what you already see.
Of this property right here.
That's correct. These 3 homes that are already in existence, all 3 are inhabited and have been for the past several years, and they use Mountainside Trail.
Yes.
So there won't be any further subdivision.
Oh.
This lot that exists here may eventually become one more home site, but that had already been permitted. And so there's not going to be any further subdivision and no further development than what's already existing.
Well, the thing that was mailed to us was not that specific, so I thought, well, I need to come to this meeting and find out. Because I thought this was going to be subdivided there.
No. And
Okay.
so there will be no further impact on the infrastructure that's already existing.
Okay.
And
Okay.
no further traffic.
Problem settled. Thanks for coming forward and explaining that.
Sorry for wasting your time.
All right, is there anyone else who would like to speak? Okay, at this time, I'm going to close the public hearing. Is there action on this?
It looks to me like there's, the proposed 2 new property lines are about, or the separation between house number 1 and 2 and between 2 and 3 is about 25 feet. And the new property line is roughly in the middle of that 25 feet, right?
35.
Well, one's 35, yeah, I guess one's 35. Well, no, both 35, yeah, 35 feet, okay. So that's set roughly 17 feet or so. The mapping on the septic permit suggests that house 2 and 3 is on the downhill side of that, right, towards Holcombe. Is that how you read it? The septic field is on the downhill slope towards Holcombe on lots 1 and 2. But lot 3, it's 90 degrees from that. It's on the downhill slope facing, what
It's the same
direction is
place.
that?
It's on Holcombe
Facing south, I guess. Oh, okay,
They just
okay.
turned the-
Yeah,
the
the
house
house
is
is
turned
shown wrong. Okay, so all 3 septic fields are on the,
downhill.
between the house and Holcombe. Is that right? Is that how y'all read it? Is that right? Okay. And so the tight area seems to be lot number 2, which is 62 feet. And is the septic permit, are these dimensions on the septic permit for lots 2 and 3 showing line lengths of 8, 7, and 10? Are those line lengths? Because that would seem like that's a short line for a septic field. My point is that that middle lot, being so tight in width, has there been some coordination between the surveyor and the septic permit issuer that there's room to get a septic field in lot number 2 in that 62-foot width?
It's already in there.
I believe those are already in place.
Well, it's in place, but it could mean that the property line crosses a septic field.
The new,
Good point.
That's that, and just for the board's clarification, we've run into that issue before, but that's a matter of civil trespass is basically what it boils down to. It's like building any infrastructure across a line. So the surveyor and the property owner would be responsible for ensuring that that incompatibility didn't exist. It's not something that we check for with any lot line.
Would it be disclosed to the buyers?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Well, you're not required to have a survey to sell the lot, though, are you? You could use, I mean,
They
you have
get
to have.
bank financing, they do. But
Okay.
Minor subdivision, so they'd have to go through the minor subdivision approval process and submit a final plat to the county.
So they're still going to have to go through subdivision.
I mean, I just would be curious to know how far, what kind of separation there is between the septic fields. Because that puts that's a lot of load on basically what is one large septic field. And according to this first permit, these lines are 50-some feet long. And that would be lot number 3. And it's just hard to say for lot number 1. It's just hard to say from this permit that how long the lines are in lots 2 and 3, but 8-foot long lines doesn't seem correct, because that's only 24 feet of line. That even in a advanced system, that's not enough. So, I just think there's some dimensional issues here.
I think that's the spacing in between the trenches, if I'm reading this correctly. It shows that the overall trench lengths are 150 feet.
Okay. So 50 feet each. So I guess for us, there's the issue that on lot number 2, to move forward with this approval, we have to assume that the 50-foot lines in lot number 2 are basically centered on the house, and that the 2 new lot lines do not cross don't cross the septic field. Is there a setback requirement on septic fields? Can they encroach on the setback, or come right to the property line?
They can cross.
They can.
Yeah, we have no purview with anything to do with septic from a zoning standpoint.
Okay.
Jillian has some for subdivision.
Okay.
But the only purview I have as far as subdivision would be they would need approval from the environmental health. But there are septic repair fields that cross property lines where people have easements into those septic repair fields. It happens all the time.
Anything else, John?
No, I mean, the county allows encroachment on property lines by septic fields, and I guess that settles that for us.
Right.
Am I right in seeing that the total area of lots 1, 2, and 3 is about 1.6 acres, something like that? 1.6.
Let's see.
Just these 2.
That's what
1 point what?
If you
So
add
lot
1, 2,
four.
and 3.
Acre.
1.6.
So it's 1.61.
Yeah.
1.61, yeah,
For the 3 here,
or 1.63.
for this whole bunch.
Yep.
Are you trying to sell all 3 properties if they're divided? Are you trying to sell all 3 of them right now, or just the one? I mean, is that the hardship, is that you need to get them sold? Because we have to look at if it's a hardship and what that is in terms of those lines. So what I guess what I was asking is the hardship is you don't want to keep it all one piece. You want to sell each individual property, and you're going to list them now.
Probably then 2 of the renters have shown interest in purchasing the property.
Which 2 homes?
The end homes.
1 and 3.
Do you have somebody renting all 3 of them right now?
Any other? Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm done.
All right. For those of you who testified, is the information you have provided the board true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief? Please reply by saying yes. Okay.
I make a motion, I move that we adopt the findings of fact.
Okay, continue on, George.
Mr. Chair, based upon the evidence presented to this board, including the following exhibits: the petitioner's application, the submitted development plan, the GIS maps, the finding of fact worksheets, and any other ancillary submissions. I move that this board adopt the following findings of fact 1 through 7A, A through G.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, Peggy seconded. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Let the minutes show unanimous vote. Okay, George.
Based upon the foregoing findings of fact and for the reasons set forth therein, I move that the requested variance be approved.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that the motion be approved. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Another unanimous vote. All right.
So the hardship was essentially
Okay, Josh.
rental versus.
Moving on to the next case, we have ZPH 2012-0012, MRECV SouthCliff LM LLC has applied for a variance from Section 78-642, Dimensional Requirements, Minimum Lot Area of the Zoning Ordinance of Buncombe County to modify the location of a lot line on PIN number 9677713873, 36 Slide Rock Way.
7-3 or 3-7? 7-3 or 3-7.
So you've got a copy of the
He said 7-3.
the site plan that shows how that lot line will be moved.
Josh, did you say 3737? So we're looking at the right one up here.
3837.
3837.
3837. Okay.
He said 7-3.
But the plat that you have before you shows lot 241 and 242 is revised, and it also shows the lot line that would be rendered obsolete. With respect to public comment on this question, I've had very little. I did speak and provide some just tentative information about the project and the requested variance, but I've had no specific comments.
Okay. Who is going to be making the presentation for this hearing? Please give us your names.
Eric Maccabee, I'm the surveyor for the project.
Mike Romero, representing SouthCliff.
Representing who?
SouthCliff.
All right. Please tell us why we should hear your appeal.
Basically, at this point, Lot 241 has been purchased, and the owner for Lot 241 is attempting to build his home, and due to some topographical limitations of where the house can be placed in the shape of Lot 241, we're having to push the house farther back in the lot, also to get some extra length on the driveway, so to eliminate some of the steepness of the driveway. That's why we need to move the lot line 30 feet. SouthCliff still owns Lot 242 and is fine with moving that line. The problem arose, this was originally approved, and then it's been zoned RLD. That lot was originally just a hair under an acre, and this would reduce it further, but it would still be greater than 0.9 acres. All the other lots around it are half an acre or less. So these are actually the two biggest lots in this section.
So that's the only consideration. We're just moving the lot line here.
Yes, sir.
Well, I think the issue is whether you're going to be creating a non-conforming lot.
Yeah.
I thought it was already non-conforming.
Yeah.
Is it already non-conforming?
Was it non-conforming?
It is already non-conforming.
Yeah, that's
This would
what-
make it a
here's
little
what
more
he said.
non-conforming.
They're making it more non-conforming.
What would it take to make it a conforming lot? Is it the acreage?
The acreage, 1 acre.
And how big would that have to be?
1 acre.
And how big is it?
Low
A
density.
little over 9/10 right now. Another tenth of an acre.
We would consider, I mean, I would interpret that to be conforming as it stands now, just as a matter of clarification. I'm showing on the GIS. I mean, this is without a survey in front of me, but it's .995. So
Okay. 10%.
Yeah, I round up on
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
Yes, the modification we're asking would reduce that to .851,
9.851?
0.851.
Oh, 851.
What's, just for clarification purposes, what's the current size of lot 241? Do you have that?
Yes, 241 was, as platted, 241. 241 was originally, yeah, that was, we were reducing it by .1, we were adding .144, so that would have been,
It would have been less than an acre.
it'd just be just a hair less than an acre too. They were both virtually the same. I think it was .997, but again, rounding, it was basically 2 1-acre lots.
Okay. Other questions, comments?
Well, as your hardship, you state that installing a driveway and building on a lot implausible. Can you expand on that?
Well, where the house needs to be placed due to the topography, as you can see, the lot, not technically a flag, but it has a thin part that accesses off the cul-de-sac at the top. It's pretty steep coming down through there, and the flattest area of the lot is at the southern to southwestern portion of the property. And that would allow extra length on the driveway to get the driveway down to a more drivable, a safer grade.
Okay.
Lot 241 was .974 of an acre. So it's non-conforming now.
Well, we had 2 non-conforming lots. If we do this, we'd have 1 at least.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
I'd call 242 just, I mean, normally if it's a hundredth off or within the hundredths, I round up on that, so we would call that a
conforming, okay.
conforming.
But 241 as it is .97.
Correct.
Yeah. So we're just switching nonconformities.
Yeah, this is a minor consideration, isn't it? All right, anything else, any further questions? All right. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on behalf or against this project?
And I'll
All
just
right.
clarify for the record, just so that it's on the public record, I believe lot 242, you can see it on the mailing that went out, has, 241 has a very minor little triangle of the steep slope high elevation overlay, which typically increases the minimum lot sizes, but again, that's an interpretation issue, and we would not interpret that to be significant enough to cause that increase. It would go from 1 to 1.5 if it's significantly in that overlay, but I just wanted to say it on the record that we interpret that not to be significant enough.
All right. Okay, gentlemen, before you leave, is the information you have provided the board true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief?
It is.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion? Peggy?
Mr. Chair, based upon the evidence presented to this board, including the following exhibits, the petitioner's application, the submitted development plan, the GIS map, and the findings of fact worksheet, I move that this board adopt the following finding of facts. Numbers 1 through 6, 7A, A through G.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to adopt the finding of fact. All All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let the minutes show a unanimous vote. Okay, Becky, on a motion to approve.
Based on the foregoing findings of fact and for the reasons set forth therein, I move that the requested variance be approved.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the variance. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let the minutes show another unanimous vote. Things like that can come before the board.
Yeah.
Yes.
The newest
Yeah,
one, yes.
We have
The little
it
one?
smaller, but we have it.
Yeah, I would give them a copy of that because it's bigger than what we have. Yeah.
Niemczyk?
In it.
That's the same one I just gave you, it's just a bigger copy.
Those exhibits.
Yeah, those.
Who needs glasses these days?
Okay, Josh?
All right, this is ZPH 2012-0013. Peter and Linda Niemczyk have applied for variances from section 78-646 E6 A and B, disturbed and impervious standards of the zoning ordinance of Buncombe County to site a single-family home on tax lot PIN number 9623262854 at 668 Blue Mist Way. I'll also ask the board to look at the site plan and allow me to find it real fast. This is a very difficult lot to measure when it comes to how wide the allowable building width would be. So I'll ask the board to approve as it stated on the site plan for a 39% building width. In staff's interpretation, I think they fit within that 30%, but given the difficulty in measuring it with the way that those contours change and traverse the property, I think it's best technically that we approve that variance as shown on the site plan.
All right.
We've had extensive conversations with the gentleman you have before you, as well as their land planner, Bob Grasso, who's provided sealed documentation that shows what they're trying to do. He was not able to be here today, but he did submit that as evidence to accompany that, and it shows the requisite calculations. The maximum allowable disturbed acreage in that particular overlay district is 0.3. They're asking for an increase to 0.33. This impervious surface is 0.16. They're asking for an increase to 0.17. We've not had any comment from the public on this particular lot.
Okay. Gentlemen, give us your names, please.
My name's Mitch Miller. I'm the current owner of home site number 204. I guess how we got to this this hearing today is I had the property listed for sale and had a buyer go to contract on the property. And during their due diligence prior to closing, they hired Mr. Solaski here as their builder, and he discovered that the property was over 3,000 feet, therefore was in the new Ridge Law overlay that's incumbent upon all lots over 3,000 feet. So they discovered this issue, and that's how we got to where we are today. You know, I would like to point out a couple of facts before I turn it over to Robert or open it up for questions. The subdivision where this lot in Avery Park, this section was recorded in 2001 by a development called Land Resources, and their land planner or whoever laid out the properties was laid them out in accordance to the current restrictions and zoning rules, which the current ridge law rules did not apply in '01. And then I bought the property in 2006, and there still was no ridge law ordinance, which I think it was adopted actually in 2010, in October of 2010. So, it is a fact. I don't know how much weight it carries, but this thing kind of come backwards to me, and also for what it's worth, this is more of it is a fact, but I don't think this is what we're stating our case on. I did call the county, as I'm a real estate agent myself, realizing my property was above 3,000 feet prior to them adopting the rule, and they suggested I would be grandfathered in and passed along. They were not going to go backwards and impose this rule going forward. So, just a little history of how I got here, and that's what we're here to try to get approved. Robert Salaski, their builder, is going to give you some information on the house and probably can speak better towards the details of the house than I can. I did want to point out that the capability of buying more land around me has been an impasse that I could not obtain. The adjoining lot owners would fall under the same restriction, and because the properties up there are small, just like mine is, 0.8 acres, it would create an additional hardship on them if they were to give me some of their property. So the ability to buy more property to make this work was, so far, it's been impossible for myself or the buyer to do. The average square foot of the homes in Avery Park, currently there's 61 homes built in that subdivision, is 3,356 square feet. Where this particular property is up, on a ridgetop, of course, and you would say constitutes for a little nicer home with the bigger views and bigger price on the properties. The average square foot of the 5 homes closest to me on that road are 4,419 square feet. And the proposed house that Mr. Salaski's clients would like to build on my property is 30,014 square feet on the standard footprint, and an additional 365 above the garage for a bonus room, which would make the total 3,379, almost conforming identical to the average house. So the point in all that was, they are not trying to build some monster on top of the mountain that would be an eyesore to the community. It conforms with everything else that's up there, actually slightly less than the surrounding homes. That's it for me, Robert.
Sure.
And I'm sorry, Robert. I would like to add, we do have Sally Sparks, who's the HOA president at Avery Park, and Tom Weaver, who's the chairman of the Architects Review Board, and the realtor, Scott Barfield, is here to in favor and to support this proposal.
Good afternoon, Board. Thank you for hearing us. Just a little more illumination on the site plan. If you look down on it, we kind of had to pick which was going to be our best shot, because we couldn't, if we squeezed it this way or this way, if we squeezed it down, it went out. And what we thought, there were two kind of controlling factors. One is the average building height at 25 foot. If we understood the ordinance that was written, the way you intended to be was to keep the house lower, not higher. So we stuck with a 25-foot average height. And then we wanted to be able to get up on the site. So we put the driveway at roughly 19% coming up there. So with those two criteria, what it did is it gave us simply a little bit bigger disturbed area, a little bit bigger impervious area, and the biggest change is really changing the face foot of the house, where it would have been 54 feet or 55 feet, we're asking for 71, so that way we can align that house with the topo and then put it up on the what would be the best spot for the lot. I can go further, or you can ask questions, whichever you prefer.
The way you're describing it would be on the ridge top.
It'd be slightly, yeah, it's the ridge top.
Pretty much, I mean,
yeah,
maybe
it's within,
slightly off what might be effectively
the
center
ridge line, if you look at I'm sure you all know how to read a topo map. The ridge line runs, the ridge line is here. I guess as you look at the map, it's starting in the lower left-hand corner on the narrow end and running kind of parallel to that back property line. So we're not on the ridge top, just slightly off the top of the ridge.
You're maybe the edge of the I guess that's the driveway going around the property.
correct.
And the edge of the house would be, what, like 100 feet from the effective ridge line running?
Correct. That's a good estimate, yes, sir.
And, just to get a feel for this, would these adjacent lots that you referred to that you would like to purchase, they've told you that they would not sell to you? There's no way to consolidate lots up there. I believe you said something about that.
Yeah.
You were unable to make any kind of deal with the.
Correct. I've not been able to make any deal with adjoining lot owners to make my lot itself bigger to make this easier.
And those lots have the same fundamental challenge?
Yes, sir.
It'd be ridgetop. This would be the first of several. If we build this home, there would be a follow-on series of ridgetop homes?
To my best of knowledge, when you put the ridge law overlay on this development, there's probably 5 or 6 properties at the top of the development that would fall under this new ridge law ordinance.
And I will note for the board that we have some substantially larger homes permitted on that ridge line already that have woven their way through the Permit Extension Act, where they've at least submitted tentative site plans as a placeholder. So it's not this is relatively small from what I've seen, but we do have other plans on that ridge line already that are far less conforming than what this one is.
But because they already have a permit in place, they don't have to have a variance.
Correct.
In other words, they were permitted sometime before. It's not clear to me exactly the date that this came to pass, but it's not that long ago.
October.
It was October of 2010 when the.
So if a
ridge law-
home was either in the process or had completed the process of.
Or had substantial expenditures related to the approval.
They flowed on through.
You needed to have more than just, I purchased a lot and I'm above 3,000 feet. You had to have some kind of either a building permit, some kind of approval or plan, something more substantial than just, I bought a lot. Right, just because you own a lot and you're above that does not, there's no non-conform or grandfather.
Well, I mean, we've gotten this far because you have rolled this over onto our table. What is the flow chart as you see it? I mean, where is it? When should this law be observed? When should we go with the law or?
We have to in this case. Anything that did not have a permit or did not have what's called either statutory vested right or some kind of general common law vested right has to observe the law as it's stated in the ordinance. Unfortunately, because of the late stage of development, being that the lot's just being transacted now, we have no choice but to observe the law and push the applicant to you for a variance.
Yeah, well, this essentially meets the law. We're not talking about egregious outside
I think you need to look at the things you need to do to grant a variance and whether it meets the categories. That's.
Well, wait a minute. There's a page of law on there, but if I've got the picture from the ridge line, there is a respect that is, I believe it's several hundred feet.
500 feet from either side of the
500 feet.
buffer.
And there's a few other aspects in that law that describe not just the respect line on both sides of the ridge line, but it speaks to the trajectory of view as well. Does that sound right? In other words, if you build right on the, I don't know, it's a complicated law, I know that, but the 500 was one they fought tooth and nail for because they had to have something to bite onto.
The 500.
The 500.
The 500 feet just determines the width of the buffer on each side of the ridge. You might be thinking about there are 2 different height limitations within the protected ridge overlay. There's one
It's got to drop. If it drops more than 50 feet vertically, so 50 feet in topo from the ridgeline, they can increase in height. Unfortunately, no matter which way we pulled the magic tape measure on this one, we couldn't get it in there. So it got stuck with that 25-foot height requirement, which creates additional design issues.
Which we thought we were fine with. We thought that was the higher priority, keep the house down.
How does this work if you went to 500 feet?
There's no requirement to go to 500 feet. They're just in the buffer requirement, or they're in the overlay requirements if they're within 500 foot of a ridge line.
500 feet has nothing to do with the requirements of the buffer. It's just how the buffer was determined.
Right.
500 feet from each side of the ridge line is where we drew the line for the buffer.
So you, in other words, almost any of these lots that are in this development could apply in a similar fashion to be about the same distance from the ridge line if
They have that development by right, yes.
because it was pre-platted.
Yes.
Back in '01 or something.
Okay. Any more? Okay, anything else you gentlemen, you gentlemen to speak? Anything else?
Good.
All right, we'll excuse you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Please come forward. Give us your name, please.
Hello, my name is Scott Barfield. I'm the real estate broker on that represented him on the land. And when he was speaking, he mentioned that the house was 30,000 square feet. It's 3,000.
Right. We caught that.
We knew that.
I was smiling. I saw you catch it, so I figured that got landed, but it also probably need to be in a record. It's okay. And the other point is, I don't know if it was made clear, but it does create a hardship if the law is enforced as written for the customer. I've attempted to market the property for him for the last 2 years, and if we interpret it strictly the way the law is written, or I don't know if the ordinance is written, is that a better word?
Correct.
Okay. The house will be very challenging to bring in and fit in under the architectural review guidelines that exist for the board now, for the community now. And that will decrease the value of the lot to basically only worth anything to the adjacent neighbors. The neighbor to the west has already combined 3 lots, so it's not as if he's going to march in and he's already combined 3 lots next door. The other property on the other side, you may have a hearing from them. They may come to you. But it creates a hardship in that the lot goes from being worth substantial to 5% of its value if I have to market it strictly under those rules. So I just want to state that it would create a hardship. But again, rules are rules. So any questions for a real estate broker that's shown it about 20 times? So
You're on very thin ice, sir.
Perfect. I'll leave
But you can make the house smaller, right?
Yeah.
He did mention, and I don't know if this is made clear, but the house is under restricted covenants and architectural review guidelines, so there are some limitations, and perhaps someone here could elucidate on that more. But it's not just a matter of making the house smaller. There's also a standard of reasonableness and how it fits in the community.
Okay, but when people mention hardship,
well,
that's
the example would be if the next door neighbor is a 5,000 square foot house and this fellow bought the lot and put in 1,800 square feet, it would create a hardship for the next door neighbor, because then you get a house that was worth 1.3 million and now someone sees.
Okay, we're not interested in your theoretical.
Yes, sir. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
We have someone else?
Good afternoon, I'm Tom Weaver. I live in Avery Park, and I've served as the Architectural Review Board Chair for the last 3 years. I think I know you from the past. We do have some architectural design standards that residents are required to follow when they build a house. Minimum square footage of 1,800 square feet, minimum setbacks, things like that. Clearly, the house design has to, according to our architect and our board, fit into our environment and be of certain textures and colors and so on. None of that really counts here. If the architect, the builder, the owners want to build a house that's smaller than 1,700 or 1,800 square feet, we will not allow that. This one clearly meets that requirement, and according to where they're sitting it on the site, meets the setbacks. So we have, from an architectural review board perspective, we have no objection to what we're seeing so far. They haven't submitted their final plan with colors and sizes and, you know, which trees they want to take out, those sorts of things. My one question to you, Josh, is I haven't seen this ordinance. I've seen, you know, that it was passed on October the 5th in 2010, and I've seen parts and pieces around it, but is there something in there about minimum number of trees that must be left on the property if it falls within this ordinance for coverage and screening and et cetera?
Correct. It's a planar square surface ratio. So whatever you could see of the house facing downhill, there's a required number of trees that have to be planted. The credits are different if you bring in new trees to the site. Ultimately, what we try to do is have people leave the existing vegetation intact. So mature trees are credited pretty highly, and it does have a pretty decent visual screening effect while still allowing the downhill view that people are desiring.
Okay, thanks. I would also say, it wasn't stated yet that just down the hill from here, not shown on this plat plan, there's already a house on the ridge. It's fairly big, not what I'd like to look up at when I see a ridge, but from what I see on this plan, it's not going to be anywhere near as objectionable as the one that has been there for probably 8 or 10 years. And if I could get a copy of or directions to how I find this ordinance, I'd like to, you know, take a look at it for future reference as others come and ask advice from me on building a house, and I'm, you know, clearly going to have to point them your direction for a variance or to this board.
Yeah, when you get that copy, you will find that the trees are really well covered in there, right? How you can offset credits for ones that are there. And
the different diameters count for
yeah,
one
different
or two
diameter.
or three,
Full,
saw hints
full
of
chapter
that.
and verse.
Yeah, but I haven't seen that.
Is there.
So I'd appreciate a copy of that. Or
We also
direction.
have something that you can distribute to potential customers or whoever. That's just a 2-page summary that'll break it down really easy as well.
Okay. So that's our architectural review board statement.
Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Okay, at this time, I'm going to close the public hearing. And for those of you who did speak, is the information you have provided the board true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief? Thank you.
Just as a matter of clarification before we open up, typically we, and Kurt can clarify this for me, we would not consider an issue of value unless it does come from someone that is considered a professional in the field, which a real estate or broker, real estate or appraiser would be considered. So any questions of value and disparity in terms of relative values in the area could be considered in this case, because that does factor into a standard of reasonableness. Obviously, we don't want to create one home that's substantially less valuable than the other surrounding it, because it drives all the surrounding property values.
Josh, your description, that connects to the hardship aspects of this, is that the hardship is the boundary between being consistent with the architectural standards of the community on the one end, and the ordinance as it's written on the other end. There's something of this size is what the case being made is that it's a hardship unless, because you lose the use of the lot.
Correct, and there's other codified sections in the zoning ordinance where it comes back to that issue more fully, particularly with front setbacks and stuff, where it does try to align community character. So that's one thing I always try to advocate for, is that we at least consider that element of it. And it's come up a couple times before the board recently with the lot size variance and other issues where without it you create something that was substantially out of line.
Could you give those numbers again about the required minimum or maximum disturbed area would be 0.3?
0.3, yes.
And they're at 0.33?
Correct.
0.33, yeah.
And the impervious area was very close also, wasn't it?
0.16 and 0.17.
Yeah.
And I will note that the plan that you have, it shows 0.37. The reason for that is there's a substantial amount that's already disturbed, and any prior disturbance, the ordinance exempts from counting toward those totals.
Okay.
I mean, they're so close on both those, it just seems like that thing could have been designed to fit.
We worked on it. I mean, I will say we had Robert and Mitch and Bob Grasso in the office, and we've been through quite a few iterations. I mean, not being a design professional, you just run into other complications. One of the issues that I don't think has been brought up is the slope pitch of the driveway. Trying to move it around, you ended up with a slope pitch, and it was actually, this is a redesign that lowers that slope pitch and increases the accessibility of the lot.
The height of the house, as measured, is an average from the lowest point to the highest point. And I'm just concerned here, or curious, I guess, about the finished floor elevation. How far below that is the lowest point of the house? I'm sorry to ask that. I should have asked that earlier.
Right.
Are you, is this a 3-story house or a 2-story house? Has it got a finished basement?
The idea is to have a lower level basement finish and then the main level.
So this finished floor elevation that's on here is the basement floor?
Should be.
Okay, that's good.
The bigger issue was that we include the front face of the house is where the big thing was blowing out. Okay.
Well, it seems to me that there's been due diligence done here, and they've gotten very close to what the ordinance requires, and they've tweaked it and worked very hard at it, and have essentially met the requirements of the ordinance. I don't know whether there may be a differing opinion of that, but it seems like they've really put their minds to work and tried to get it into a perspective where it will fit the ordinance, and I think it's very, very close. Therefore, I can support going ahead with it.
Yeah, I can support it. To be clear, a plat like this would not be approved with today's guidelines and the ordinance that exists today. Something like this could not be designed.
There are minimum lot sizes. I believe it's 2 acres, and there's also a minimum lot width. So, no, this would not be approved as a subdivision plat today.
Okay, I think that's what connects me to the thing, is that it goes back to previous, and then it meets the.
Okay. Do we have a motion for finding of fact, please?
Mr. Chair, based on the evidence presented to this board, including the following exhibits: the petitioner's application, the submitted development plan, the GIS map, and the finding of fact worksheet, I move that this board adopt the following findings of fact, numbers 1 through 6 and 7A, A through G.
Okay, is there a second to that motion? Second. Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, let the minutes show unanimous approval on that.
And we do need to specifically address, since it's not, and I may be too late in doing this, there needs to be the addition of the 39% lot width. I don't believe that was in the original findings of fact, so maybe Kurt can tell us how we need to do that.
We'll just, someone make a motion to amend to add that.
Okay.
Where does it go?
What do you-
It would be 3.
I move that we amend the motion.
Actually, since, Ms. Mann, since you made the motion, if someone could make a friendly amendment?
Yeah. I will make that friendly. Will you allow that friendly amendment for the, what was the number?
39%.
Lot, the
Subsection
39%. Okay.
Ms. Mann, did you accept that amendment?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Moving forward. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, show unanimous approval. Okay, now we need a motion to approve the variance.
Based on the foregoing finding of fact and for the reasons set forth therein, I move that the requested variance be approved.
Is there a second to that motion?
A second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to approve the variance. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, let the minutes show unanimous approval.
That's all the way down.
All the way down to,
All the way down to Jillian, I guess.
To Julian, please.
All the way to Jillian.
Okay, the final case that you have before you is ZPH 2012-00014. Viola Case London has applied for a variance from Section 78-642, the dimensional requirements, specifically setbacks of the zoning ordinance of Buncombe County, to site a single-family home on tax lot PIN number 963-550-2986-46 Joshua Ridge. Just some notes about this case. This is a 0.25 acre lot, is what we're showing on the original plat. The entire subdivision is largely a subdivision of manufactured homes. And as you can see from the pictures, the setbacks are not very far from the property line. Lee DeForth in our office and myself went through several different scenarios and attempted to find a way that we could make this particular home work on the lot, but due to the fact that the lot is oriented the way it is, it was very unlikely that we could find something to site on that lot that would still fit within the context of the community. We could get it pretty close, but not totally there. We just thought at that point it would be best to go ahead and request a variance to prevent the applicant from having any problems in the future. I will state for the record that normally, per our ordinance, the house would be able to come online with 44 Joshua Ridge, as there's a clause that allows all houses on a street to front together. When the variance was submitted, we changed that to ask for a variance from the full 20 feet, just in case anything changes in the future. But they would be able to come all the way online with that house at 44 Joshua Ridge.
Josh, is what you're saying this essentially meets the requirements of the ordinance? Then, after your
It essentially meets the loopholes that are in the ordinance. I wouldn't say it meets the requirements of the ordinance.
Okay. You know what I mean.
Yeah, we looked at every way we could to try to cite it. It came very close, but it was going to end up in getting a product that was not really well suited for that lot, and not really well suited for Miss London's needs.
So it's 7 feet instead of 20 feet.
It's going to be, we're asking for a variance, yeah, correct. And it's just an interpretation issue. I think they're already allowed that 7 feet, but I just felt better since we already had a variance before you to go ahead and get it clarified.
And it essentially meets what the others have done in that area? Is that
Yeah, completely. This will probably be one of the more conforming houses in that neighborhood.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we now get the picture. All right. Anything else, Josh?
Normally, they would have the ability to switch out a house that was the same size, as long as they didn't create any further nonconformities. I think that mobile home size that's in there now is relatively uncommon, and it's not an easy one to find. So it doesn't make any sense for them to go and find a home that's that size just to cram it in there. It's easier to go through this process and find something.
Okay.
What is the size of the existing?
44 foot. Yeah, they don't make them.
Wide?
12.
A 1240.
Okay, is that it, Josh, from you?
That's all I have, pending any questions.
Okay, please give us your name and tell us what you'd like us to do.
My name is Viola London, and I'm hoping to put a single-wide mobile home onto my property that just wasn't made large enough to accommodate the size of it. And I don't have this proof, but from what I understand, the road that does go up through my property wasn't originally used. They usually used to get to the home that's above it at a different route. So that would have extended my use of that property. But now there's a road, that road goes up through there. But as he was talking about the homes, if you don't mind my showing you, whereas this one sits a lot closer.
If you give that to us, we keep it.
That's fine.
Okay.
But that one sits a lot closer even than what I'm requesting. Yeah.
All right. Anything else from you today?
I don't think so.
Okay. Board, any questions or comments for Ms. London? Okay. Seeing that there's no one else in the room other than Ms. London, I will close the public hearing at this time. Board members?
I'm okay.
I'm just going to say, we deliver a good bit of oil out in that area, so I've actually been through there. I can't imagine that most of those places conform already to anything. I mean, that picture of that one being right at the road, a lot of them are already right at the road, and it's such a small little area to go through. I can't imagine it being too much of a problem. What I'm saying is that whole area is kind of like that already anyway. Mm-hmm. I don't know whether that makes any difference, but there's a lot of them there that are already.
It's not going to hurt the park.
Exactly. It's because all of them are like that, and there's enough room like for an oil truck to go and through most of those areas. So, and I think, does the garbage truck and all that go down and through there?
Well, it does come up through there, but there's only one house past my place.
Okay.
And so it's really not traveled.
I thought I had seen, because I go that way almost every day too, and so I thought I had seen where they had like garbage trucks
on that
go down.
road, there's only one house past mine.
So it's, yeah.
Okay. Ms. London, is the information you have provided the board true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, based upon the evidence presented to this board, including the following exhibits: the petitioner's application, the submitted development plan, the GIS maps, the findings of fact worksheet, I move that this board, pardon me? Including the photograph, I move that this board adopt the following findings of fact.
I second. Oh, sorry.
It's all right. 1 through 6, 7A and 7B.
No, 7A, A through.
7A, A through G.
Yeah. Okay, there's been a motion to approve the findings of fact. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Show unanimous vote. Okay, now, do we want to have an approval for the variance?
Based upon the foregoing findings of fact, for the reasons set forth therein, I move that the requested variance be approved.
Is there a second to that approval?
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to approve the variance. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Okay. I believe that concludes our business for today.
You're good to permanent whenever you're ready.
We're getting pretty generous.
What?
We're getting pretty, no, I think we did like that in all four.